was screwed. So right there at the scene, the police rearrested her. Darlene's trial began on February 6, 2007. Her defense team argued that the prosecution's case was weak, that it was circumstantial at best. And interestingly, their strategy, the defense's strategy and focus, it was all on Darlene's looks. They basically tried to convince the jury that someone who looked like Darlene, this petite, pretty Texas mom, she couldn't possibly be capable of murder. And her attorneys told the press that they were confident that she would be acquitted, that they would prove her innocence. But then things got kind of weird. During pretrial, Darlene's team tried to float around this wild third-party theory that somebody else had killed Keith. More specifically, they introduced medical records showing that Keith had herpes, and so did some other random married couple whose identities were never made public. But their argument was that Keith supposedly had began having an affair and that this mysterious couple might have killed him out of revenge. Which sounds outlandish, I know, but that's what they were going for, and the judge, unsurprisingly, shut that down fast. The records weren't relevant, they weren't verified, and they were a total invasion of privacy. So basically, the court said, nice try, but no. So that theory, it went nowhere. Meanwhile, the prosecution, they came prepared. Even though Darlene never confessed, they laid out a clear and very chilling theory of what happened. When first responders arrived that morning, Keith was still alive. Barely, though. Which meant that when Darlene called 911, she had likely just shot him moments earlier. They also explained why the supposed break-in looked so sloppy. Because it was. She had staged it. She tossed those guns outside. She cracked open the door, trying to make it look like somebody else had done it. There was just no real mess at the scene. It didn't add up. Then, of course, there was also the nail in the coffin. The video. The footage of Darlene at the pond, returning to the scene of her own cover-up, looking right where the murder weapon had just been found. Hello, try explaining away that one. So just after 5 hours of deliberation, the jury came back with a verdict. Guilty. Darlene was sentenced to 60 years in prison. And despite her legal team's big talk about how confident they were, Darlene didn't seem shocked at all. She just sat there calm, almost detached. She quietly just took off her earrings, she placed them on the table, and she let the deputies take her into custody. I don't know, maybe she knew it was coming, maybe deep down she knew that she would never get away with what she had done. But even still, Darlene has maintained her innocence over the years. And then, a full decade later, in 2017, her lawyers filed an appeal, arguing that her first trial had been unfair. They claimed the court had made multiple errors, which let me just read them for you. Denying her motion to suppress, mishandling the findings of fact, refusing a change of venue due to pre-trial publicity, blocking medical records that could show third-party motive, and lastly, not polling the jury about a newspaper article that had ran during sentencing. The appellate court reviewed every single claim and rejected them all, so her conviction stood. And with that, Darlene will not be eligible for parole until 2030.